Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video on the channel. Inside of today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the worst 10 brawlers in the game right now. So the update's been out for well over a week, so we're really able to consolidate the worst brawlers in the game because there's been actually a few changes you'll be glad to hear. So we're going to be starting off with the worst, well, the 10th worst brawler in the game right now, and that's going to be Janet. So Janet, I'd say sometimes can be underrated. She gets some decent damage stats, but I just feel like she's not really the carry brawler. A lot of times as well, there's just still so many hypercharged brawlers that are still really good in the meta, and all it takes is for one of them to click the purple button and she's just completely screwed. Again, she's just really easy to pick on. The lack of damage really hurts her, so she's still a bottom 10 brawler in my opinion. Quickly, before going to the 9th worst brawler, make sure you subscribe if you're not already, because we're doing a tier list tomorrow. I forgot to mention that in the intro, but that's going to be a banger. Anyways, jumping into the 9th worst brawler in the game right now, I went with Sam. So of course, a good Sam player can make a lot of good moments, and you know, in the right matchup, Sam can actually be really overwhelming. But I still feel like there's hardly any good matchups for Sam anymore. I think Hypercharge completely ruined him. He's of course really predictable with his super. You always know where he's going to go, but not only that, it's just really hard for him to close the gap when there's just so many hypercharged brawlers, so many brawlers top of the meta with a pushback, etc, etc, and there's just so many open maps in the map pool. So for me, Sam has really fell off. He's one of the worst brawlers for sure. So next up is the 8th worst brawler in the meta right now. We went with Daryl. So kind of recently, he got a projectile speed buff to his main attack, which seemed okay, but in reality it didn't really fix anything. It just means maybe he cycles his super a little bit quicker, because at max range he deals next to no damage. But at the same time, he can be underrated in heist, but then there's just other hypercharged tanks that are better than him in heist, like Bull, for example, or just other better heist brawlers that are able to get more consistent damage on the safe, like Colt, like Colette. And also, when you take a look at the top brawlers in the meta, you think of Charlie and Cordelius. They just hard counter Daryl so much. So I think the buff really did nothing to him. I don't think I've actually seen him at all in competitive outside of Quickfire. So for me, he's absolutely a bottom 10 brawler. So next up is the 7th worst brawler in the game right now. I went with Carl. So it pains for me to say this because I love Carl and he can be pretty underrated, but still, when you take a look at the play rates in competitive and also just in my ranked games, I don't think I ever see a Colt. And if I see him, I think it's pretty much a free kill every single time. So of course, there's so many meta brawlers right now that can just shut him down so easily. Cordelius, Charlie are two big ones that interrupt his super. But not only that, even when he gadgets in, most brawlers can just deal with him easily. He hasn't got a lot of HP right now in comparison to other assassins. And again, Hypercharge is a big problem. It just overwhelms him so much. Again, I've just never seen Colt too much. It's a big shame, because when he is a meta brawler, the meta isn't toxic whatsoever, because he does have glaring weaknesses. But those weaknesses right now, it's just pretty much the whole meta, every single brawler in the game. So for me, I think Colt definitely is one of the worst brawlers. So next up is the 6th worst brawler in the game right now. I went with Bonnie. So again, another brawler who was at the top of the meta for a very long time before Hypercharge. She then received a projectile speed nerf, which hurt her so much. I haven't seen a Bonnie at all in heist, even in Big Friend. I think she's pretty overrated if we're talking about ranked. I just don't think there's really a spot for her in the meta. The big problem being, of course, it's just so hard to hit shots, and for you to get in range to hit those shots, there's just better snipers out there, with Piper and Nanny dominating the meta. You think of other brawlers that counter pretty much every brawler, any type of aggression will counter her. Hypercharge, they just love facing off against Bonnie because she has so much HP. She just feeds them so much. Again, I've tried Bonnie a few times in ranked and it just never worked out. There's just so many overwhelming interactions. For me, she definitely is one of the worst brawlers in the game right now. So next up, as the 5th worst brawler in the game right now, I went with Gus. So you see the common theme here. It's a lot of brawlers that lack the DPS, and Gus is definitely one of them. So he used to always be one of the go-to picks to knockout and bounty, but he's really fell out of that meta ever since Piper and Nanny got buffed and his knockback got removed. He just can't deal with assassins whatsoever. Again, there's just so many snipers in the game right now that really overpower him. You just got to take a look at the bounty and knockout meta. You've got Angelo now, you've got Pearl, you've got Charlie, you've got Leon, Belle. There's just every single brawler within his range will just delete him. So for me, doesn't have the damage to keep up with assassins, doesn't have the capabilities to beat snipers, so he's actually not good at anything. So next up is the 4th worst brawler in the game right now. I went with Byron. So again, it pains for me to say this. A lot of my favorite brawlers are at the bottom 10, but Byron, he just completely sucks right now. He's so squishy, and it's just no way for him to defend himself against all of these assassins, all of these hypercharged brawlers. it's just so easy to overwhelm this brawler. Again, it can be underrated. He's not unusable, right? If he's bottom 10 brawler, doesn't mean he's unusable. It means you need the right composition for it to work. I think with Byron as well, if there's other sharpshooters banned, maybe he's an underrated pick. But again, there's just more solid options out there. All the other snipers in the game can deal with him pretty easily. And for me, he's just so easy to take down. So next up, as the third worst brawler in the game right now, I went with Chester. So again, I just think you take a look at every other lane in the game right now, and they just deal so much more consistent damage. He actually is so predictable. And again, people don't understand this. They think because he's an RNG brawler that he should be really unpredictable. But I just think because he's been out for so long now, people just understand Chester. And even, I don't know, you get a surprise super. His supers aren't even that strong. You might sometimes be able to get some good value with it, but in competitive, it's not really going to turn the tides. There's just more better brawlers out there with more consistent supers. You think of other lane brawlers, for example, I don't know, just throwing a few out there, like Sandy, for example, one of the best supers in the game, and you're able to get that a lot more consistently than Chester. So for me, he's just always been underwhelming. And even if he faces off against tanks, I just think tanks can run all over him as well. So what is Chester actually good at? I have zero clue. Next up, as the second worst brawler in the game right now, I went with Hank. So I think that Hank has quite a few good matchups and good modes, but it does, again, take the right scenario for him to work out. I feel like he actually isn't the second worst brawler in the game. Maybe I'm a little bit biased, but I don't know. I seem to get a lot more wins than like Chester, Byron, but at the same time, all you have to do is slip up once with Hank and you're completely screwed. That's the bad thing about it. And still, there's just so many hypercharged brawlers that can cancel out his bubble. And because he has so much HP, he's just pretty much a super feeder. So maybe in the right scenario, he can be really overwhelming and push the enemies back with his bubble. But then again, does that happen very often? It doesn't. Lastly, as the worst brawler in the game, it is definitely Frank. So I think I've been saying this for well over a year now, maybe even 2 years, that Frank has been, it might even be 3. That's just how long he's been at the bottom of the meta. Do I really need to explain why he's bad? His meta attack gets interrupted so easily. His super is really easy to avoid. And again, he's just a super soaker. He's able to just feed the opponent's super pretty much all of the time. And with hypercharge coming into the game and so many meta brawlers just shut him down so easily. You know, Charlie, Cordelius, all of these brawlers are just able to run all over him. His only purpose in the meta is Big Friend, but even then, I think he's pretty overrated in Big Friend. So I just don't see the purpose in Frank. I'm waiting for a rework, but that's going to be it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know who you think are the worst 10 brawlers in the game. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.